Welcome back, everybody. This is Josh Barnett, running for United States Congress here in District 7 in Arizona. You are on People Over Politics. This is the fourth podcast that we've had. I got my good friend Thomas Hussey here. We're waiting on Chris.
Chris will be here.
Yeah, he got stuck in some traffic. They closed off the 101 out here in Arizona.
Got a
And
big storm rolling in right now.
Yeah.
So they were talking about flash floods. So.
yeah, monsoon weather
Break
coming.
today.
Yeah. So they got it coming through. So I was talking with these guys earlier today and about certain things we wanted to discuss tonight. And I'm going to have Tom kind of give his explanation of it because he has a police background, and I think he'll see it from a different angle than what most of us would. And he's also a libertarian. So he's going to give a different angle than maybe I would. But I have a strong feeling we're probably going to agree on 99% of this stuff here. So with the Rittenhouse thing, what are some of the stuff? And I know we're waiting on details, and you know how the stuff is. You know, there's stuff that we haven't seen the body cams and all this kind of thing, or you know, different angles. And apparently the gun I found out tonight, that AR, he didn't bring across state lines. It was a friend of his that had it that he provided. Yeah. So I was just reading up on that. My buddy, my business partner, Louis Uradell over in Oceanside just posted up about that. Apparently he had gloves on because he was cleaning graffiti off burnt up buildings.
He had surgical gloves on.
Yeah. Yeah, he said latex gloves will keep gunpowder off your hands. The particles go over your arms and clothing. So in self-defense, we'll see what happens with that type of evidence. Chris is in the house.
There he is.
And he's got a great shirt on. Lions, not sheep.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're talking about Rittenhouse and that whole situation. I told Tom to give us his viewpoint of what he's read and what he thinks, what direction this is going to go.
First and foremost, from what I've seen on social media, the news and stuff like that, I feel like people are missing the bigger point here. I feel like people are missing the bigger point that instead of focusing on somebody going out and shooting somebody, we need to focus on maybe why he was out there. So we find ourselves in a position where people are needing to defend themselves and their property. And we pay our taxes. Everybody pays taxes, and we pay taxes for three particular things that the government's supposed to provide. Police, and this is a libertarian thing here. Mm-hmm. This is police, national defense, and a court system. That's the three mandatory things that a government has to provide. And everything else in and above that, the people allow. But the three things we need are police, national defense, and a court system. If you take away one of those things, like the police, now people are put into a position where they feel like maybe they have to defend themselves and their property now because they feel like they can't rely on the police. So I'm not going to get. I don't know if, like you said, we don't know the details. So I don't know if getting into the specifics of whether it was legal, that was legal, what laws did he break, the nitpicking that eventually is going to happen
from the actual source.
Why do we feel like, or why do citizens feel like they need to be out on the street with guns protecting things that we pay taxes for police to do? That's what I think the bigger picture is that people are missing right now.
And why is there 5 million new first-time gun owners in 2020?
That ties into it. You're right. That ties into it. So, yes, we're going to have the Monday morning quarterback for the next 2 weeks over social media, whether this kid was a criminal or not. People are going to call him hero. People are going to call him a villain. But forget that for right now. Let's just focus on, why do people feel like they need to be out in the street with guns protecting things that the police should be protecting?
Because he was allegedly there protecting businesses, right? That's why he went there, to protect businesses that are getting burned up and looted and destroyed and everything else. That's what they were allegedly there to do, from what I've read. You know, I haven't seen the court documents or anything like that. But the fact that we even have to do that was what you're referring to as the problem, that we're paying tax money for police that aren't, not that they're not doing their jobs, they aren't allowed to do their jobs in some cases.
Chris, what do you think?
I mean, that's a loaded question. You know what I mean? There's a lot to that. For me, in any situation, I mean, Tom, you know how I am. I'm going to look at it from a fatherhood perspective. Where are his parents?
You're right. Kids are 17.
He's 17 years old.
You're right.
Why is he allowed to roam the streets with an assault rifle?
Well, they live in Southside Indianapolis. I found out.
Right, exactly. He crossed.
And he was in
state
Illinois.
lines.
Okay,
Yeah,
he went through Illinois into
So
Wisconsin.
for me, that says you're going to look for trouble. You know what I mean? It's one thing, being a business owner. It's one thing if I'm protecting my own business or their security, protecting but if it's a 17-year-old child, that's a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't know what's going on.
And he's made a conscious decision to cross the state lines, and he's looking for action. To me, now I don't know all the facts, of course. However, once again, where are his parents? Why does he feel free to do that?
Well, what's weird is I don't know a militia that I'm aware of that would ever accept a 17-year-old kid to come out and do anything. So it's very odd to me as on top of that whole situation. But he did have videos I saw that people were posting of him prior to saying not that he wanted to go protect it, but he was there. I want to go there and help with whatever. He wasn't like, I'm going to go, make sure these people don't bust into these business. He wasn't acting like a tough guy in the videos that I saw. And they immediately tied him to Trump, a quick you know what I mean? So then I kind of had suspicion of what direction this is going. But then again, he was running for his life down the street. There was people chasing him, trying to hit him with a skateboard. A guy had a gun in his hand that he shot. So, there is a lot of, it's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. Well, it still ties into the same thing for me because as a father, well, even as a son, that conversation would have been had at home.
What would your dad have done?
I mean, it would never come to that point.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It would have been that conversation's had at home. It's, hey man, I feel this way about the police, the situation going on. We're going to discuss it at the dinner table, and then after that, however you feel. But crossing a state line first of all, I didn't even have access to an assault rifle at 17. You know what I mean? And then to go from there to where no one there should have been there. He nor the people assaulting him. Because he was getting assaulted, for sure.
Yeah.
But he had also killed someone.
He put himself in a position to be assaulted.
And he had already killed someone.
And then those people shouldn't have been there doing what they're doing.
That's right.
All over the country for that matter.
Yeah, no one should have been there.
Yeah.
No one out in that street at that night should have been there. So it's this, like you said, where we are in society where there's this I guess segment of society that's just kind of running amok, so to speak. I think a lot of this boils down to, if you look at households across America, I think it's 40% of the households across America are fatherless at this point. And I think that plays a big role in a lot of things.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, and I'll always come back to that. I will always come back to that.
I think the point that you made about there's a lot of craziness on both sides, and that's what you'll have. If you have madness on one end, it's going to be counterbalanced by madness from the other end. So you're going to have the pole opposites collide with one another. And like I said, I try and look at things objectively first before I ever take a side or make an opinion. And I think I'm at the point right now, before making an opinion, it's time to look at things objectively and just isolate the reasons why this is happening. Josh, you're the one who's running for Congress. You could very possibly find yourself in a place of being able to do something about it. I mean, what do you think? I'm like, how would you negotiate this obstacle?
Well, first thing I would
if
do,
it was in your district, let's say in your district there was
we declared Antifa a terrorist organization because they're destroying America right now. They're destroying federal property. They're destroying businesses and people's homes. And what's even more ludicrous to me is they're destroying their own neighborhoods, their own businesses. So it's really unbelievable what's happening. The thing is, it's only happening. It's only happening in Democrat-run cities. This crap isn't happening in Republican-controlled cities. Now you might have a little skirmish here and there, but I'm talking Seattle, Portland. A guy just got killed last night. And then now people are celebrating it. They're literally, the BLM supporters were celebrating him being killed and murdered, which is frustrating beyond words. Now you have it happening in Minnesota, Minneapolis, New York City. You have Democrat mayors and governors releasing criminals from jail, rapists and murderers, releasing them because they might die of COVID. What do they do when they get out? Rape, murder. I mean, we've already seen it happen in Florida. I mean, that's a well-known case, but it's been happening in New York all over. I got friends in New York City. Well, Will, 40, you guys know 40. He tells me what's going on back home, back in Brooklyn. It's crazy. You know, the stuff that is happening right now now, I'm not saying all Democrats, don't get me wrong. I'm saying I've heard a Democrat condemn it. Ted Cruz called out Hirona from Hawaii and said, condemn Antifa right now. Condemn what they're doing. You know what she did? She got up and walked out. She would not condemn them.
Yeah.
And it's on video. Now, I haven't seen like Ruben Gallego. I haven't seen him condemn anything. So if
where is he? Do we know what his stance is? Has he made any public comments on?
He's a coward, dude. He doesn't make stances on anything. Here's what he does. He's complicit by not saying anything. He's complicit. That's how I feel. And if you're not going to say something, you're complicit. You're part of the problem. And I can't imagine, honestly, I can't imagine anyone in government not standing up to this and saying, this is wrong. It's obviously wrong. This cannot continue. This cannot happen. You know, we support, and a part of it is the defunding of the police and that movement, which we've discussed last week quite a bit. But there is a direct correlation in that with some of these liberal cities that are defunding police, pulling resources away, hand tying the cops from doing their jobs so that there's law and order. We've already discussed what we feel needs to be done with what's happening in the Black community and some of the Hispanic communities in particular, what can be done. But you can't sit quiet right now. I don't care what side you're on. You can't sit quiet because then, as far as I'm concerned, you support what's happening.
You know what's interesting about what you said to build on it is that just this week on CNN, they actually spoke out against it. But it was the reasoning behind it.
I know.
That was interesting to me, was when the report, it was Don Lemon and Cuomo. Don Lemon says, hey, this is resonating in the polls. The riots are resonating in the polls, so we have to stop this now. So that means if it was resonating for Biden, don't stop it. You see what I'm saying? Like that to me, I was like, whoa. Yeah. Like to say that just openly, hey, this is hurting Biden, so we should stop now. Well, if it was helping him, would you want to stop?
Well, they didn't say a word at all until Biden, then he crept up out of his basement slowly.
And I mean, maybe that's why Gallego is not saying anything now, because he has the luxury of it not happening in a city where he represents too. So
we've been lucky outside of Scottsdale Fashion Mall. We've been pretty lucky with
one day
violent things happening here, and that was just luckily. I don't think anybody got hurt that day. I think it was just more destruction and chaos. But outside of that, we've been pretty lucky here, thank goodness. But you know,
it wasn't luck though.
We knew it was coming. I knew about it.
It happened. And the next day, our friend that we know, the fighter, he called and said, hey, listen, I'm in the National Guard. We're going to be out here tomorrow. They've already deployed us.
It was done. It was done and over at that point.
So then the next day, they were out there in armored vehicles with rubber bullets.
And MCSO was joining them.
They were in Scottsdale and they were downtown.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is the only incident we had was the Scottsdale thing, and that was.
And that's a great point because Trump has offered help to these cities. That Ted Wheeler in Portland said, I don't want your help, and then. I mean, these people are nuts. Like, why would you not accept help to help clean up what's going on? Yeah. They come to his house. Guess what? You go to Lightfoot's house in Chicago. She's got Chicago PD all around her. You've seen the video. All around her house. And Blaze TV guys trying to get, like, I want to interview with Lightfoot. Oh, no, you can't come through here. Yeah. Oh, she wants police to protect her, but not her city and everybody else. It's do as do as I say, not as I do. It's like the Democrat motto right now. And the problem is, don't get me wrong. There's people on the Republican side that have the same mindset. Do as I say, not as I do. It's not just one way. But right now, with this particular issue is a clear liberal Democrat problem that is just exacerbated throughout, based on what's happening. And unfortunately, we're getting events like Floyd. We're getting events like Blake. We're getting events like Breonna Taylor. Like these constant things, like you had Rand Paul get attacked outside the White House. And his wife, say attacked. They were borderline attacked, harassed, pretty bad,
Definitely
right?
Harassed.
Yeah, and you're talking about the guy. I mean, these people are. This is how ignorant these people are. This guy wrote the bill to stop no-knock warrants, like we were talking about. He's the guy who wrote it. And then you have these people like, oh, Breonna Taylor, they were yelling Breonna Taylor. I go, he wrote the bill to stop that. Yeah. Why are you harassing this guy? But they're so ignorant, they don't know. They don't even know what they're even there for. Besides, somebody paid them to go in there and attack and cause chaos because these people were coming out of state. It's been shown, out of state, put up in hotels, food, the whole deal, and they're shipping these people in to cause chaos. Yeah. And they have proof of this. And Rand Paul, he brought up that point, and he has evidence of this. So we'll see what goes in that direction. But that's up to Attorney General Barr at that point.
Yeah.
to do something about that.
FBI.
The FBI, well, Ray's not. We'll see what Ray does, but I'm not too confident in him. I think we got to rely more on Barr to push that issue, because I don't see Ray doing a whole lot about it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But so, is there anything else on Renton? I know. What about the Blake situation? I'll let you touch on that. Go ahead.
Go ahead. The Blake thing again. Over the next 2 weeks, Monday morning quarterbacks are going to pick apart the case. We're going to get more footage here and there. Things are going to trickle out. We're going to find more facts of what happened, what didn't happen. That video came out like the day after we had our last podcast, and me and Chris talked about it, and it was almost case in point, because when the video first comes out and you just see it for what it is from that one video that everybody got to see right off the bat without any background information, it looks horrible.
Yeah.
It looks absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Again, you can't see anything that happened before. You don't know the details, but so often that's the only moments that get captured are those moments right there,
or at least the ones they let out,
or
right?
they're specifically specially edited. So yeah, right off the bat, that looked really, really bad for law enforcement. I don't know what's going to come of it, and again, it seems like more and more things are coming out, but it's almost like the Rittenhouse thing or the Trump thing. You're going to have people that no matter what, Blake was unfairly shot, and you're going to have people that say no matter what, Blake had it coming.
Yeah.
And it's just like Trump.
They
You
went
either
to get
hate
a
him
warrant
or you love him. If you're Rittenhouse, he's either a hero or a villain.
Yeah.
And and this is probably a larger problem that we're having in society, but there is no more middle ground.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I'm teaching, in fact, tomorrow, I'm teaching the Constitutional Convention. And if any of you guys know about the Constitutional Convention, it was getting rid of the Articles of Confederation and creating what we got now. The whole thing, the entire thing, was built on a series of compromises that took a very long time to come out with. The whole thing is all compromise. That must have been an extraordinary task to take, knowing how much you had to give up to get what you wanted. I don't feel like we have anything like that in the world today. So I'm going to be explaining to these kids tomorrow how compromise created this country and the current constitution we have. But all they see around them right now is such polarization. Yeah. How could they relate to that? How are they going to relate to that?
Yeah. And, you had Tim Scott came out. I read through his bill, the Justice Act. And I read through it, and I thought it was like a great start to something that, it might not be perfect, but I thought it was a great start to help fix the issue, And then I see, just like you were speaking, Pelosi and Schumer wouldn't even look at it. They literally wouldn't even look at it.
Not even going to entertain it.
Yeah. And you have a very distinguished black Republican being called a token, right?
Yeah,
being called a token, being talked down to, and puts out this amazing legislation. I even got Juan Skeet to agree that it was good. That's how good it was. Right. You get Juan to agree on anything that's conservative. That's a big win. So, but you had this act, but that's that polarization that you're talking about. It's so extreme now. Like the other side they can't even sit in the same room and have a conversation, like at all. It's not happening, especially this close to an election. Yeah. But I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, Chris? I see your wheels turning.
Once again, it's loaded. It's such a big issue. You know what I mean? In the sense of, when I saw the video initially, it was like you said. We had just talked about this last week. The training behind the police, how everything is just violence rules the day. Yeah. That was on the academy wall. That you went. That was on the academy. That was on the wall. That was a slogan. That was actually the slogan. Violence rules the day. Yeah. And so I think it just goes back to that. You know what I mean? That you said you took the verbal judo class.
Yeah.
And when you took the verbal judo class, you were able to start to just use a different set of skills. You were fresh out of the military. You were young. Let me rough a few people up until this is not cool anymore. So when I watched the situation in full, once I saw him on the ground, I was thinking to myself, and I'm always going to fall back to this, right? Yep. Sorry if it sounds, redundant, but as a father, I feel like your number one role is a protector, right? So as a father, also, to me, what he showed his children was, when authority comes, this is the way you behave, is you fight authority.
He had 3 kids with him, right?
That's right. You fight authority. Not only that, once you got off the ground and walked around to the car, you put your children in a position to where they could have been harmed. Because if one of those bullets goes astray, it could hit anyone.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So once again, for me, I just think the values of the country have been broken down. And that starts inside the home. That starts with family. And I will always come back to that, because there's this macro picture.
Yeah.
But the micro is what really matters. The agent of change is what happens inside the home. So when I'm watching in a convention and they take the words "under God" out of the national anthem, that resonates with me.
Yeah, no, I was mad.
That resonates because I was like,
that.
"Whoa!"
Yeah,
that
twice. Maybe it was a mistake. They did it
yeah,
twice.
and then it happens again, and it's like, okay, they're saying we're going in this direction. You know what I mean? And once again, this is coming from an independent.
Yeah.
So, I just think that the family breakdown is just resonating, and then you have the media who pumps in their side of things, and at the end of the day, what they're doing is they're taking one incident that they know is going to happen from time to time, and they say we're going to blow that up. So, because if you take the numbers, right, just take a guess. How many unarmed black men were killed in America in all of 2019? Just take a guess.
I watched Tucker, so I got to see that episode. But yeah, it was like 9 or 10.
Okay,
it was single digits, right?
At the high
like 9 or
end,
10.
At the high end,
17, the high
with
end
the
on
ones
the
that
year.
are weird, they're 14.
Yeah,
okay,
14,
there's 5 that are but that's still.
Yeah.
There's gonna be 14 people die in Chicago today.
Today.
Just Chicago. We're not talking about L.A., Detroit,
and
Miami.
next weekend's Labor Day weekend.
Exactly.
70 shot.
We're not talking about any of those. We're talking about today. It'll be 14 just in
kids
Chicago.
too.
Murders. You know
kids.
what I mean? So it's the virtue signaling drives me crazy. That's the part that really drives me crazy.
Well, that's why I call them the enemy of the people, the media.
Yeah.
Because they drive that that narrative.
For the next 2 weeks, when we go through all the facts and this happened and that happened, and the dissection of the video and the case with what happened to Blake, I promise you, nobody in the media will say what Chris just said. Not a single soul will add that human side to it of, hey guys, wait a second. He was a dad. Maybe before he got in this conversation, he should have thought about the kids before he even swallowed his pride and thought about your kids. So
here's what I get about this guy.
Nobody will say that.
I think he's a selfish
on either side
person. And here's why. Here's why I'm going to say this, because you saw what happened prior to this, right? With this guy, why they went after him. He had warrants.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah. They're picking up
you saw what he did to his ex-girlfriend prior to the sexual assault. Said, you're cheating on me. I'm not even going to say what he said. Took her keys out of her purse and stole her car. Yeah. This guy's he's a selfish person. That's not something a good person does. Like Chris was talking about, it's not something a good father is not going to do that. A good person is not going to do that. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying he deserved anything that he deserved by any means like that. Well, imagine if we had one guy, we had to take him down between 3 of us. There were 3 cops there. How much? We wouldn't need any tools. Yeah. I'll be willing to bet $1 million that guy would be down in like literally 2 seconds. Yeah. And he would be like, just cuff me, take me away, so I don't take this beating from Tom anymore. But my point is, you had 3, like we were discussing last week. You had 3 cops. You had pepper spray, or they tased him twice allegedly. They had all these other weapons, but then to get I guess they were wrestling around. They had him in a headlock, or the guy had a cop in a headlock. Where's the other 2 guys? Yeah. Like, you have 3 guys. You can't. The training to me seems very insufficient. Yeah. And if 3 guys can't handle 1 guy, and he wasn't a big guy. It wasn't like he was a 6'8", 300-pound man.
They had 5 guys there.
Well, George is like 6'6", 250. So I can kind of, but 5 dudes. You got 1 on each, arm, leg, and whatever. Right. It's like the training needs to be stepped up. The ability to defend themselves and fight properly. Probably some jiu-jitsu would help, honestly, like that type of training. So you know how to manipulate the body and not only protect yourself, but not necessarily hurt the other person, but you're putting them in a position to apprehend them properly.
Well, the interesting thing is, I get my hair cut in your district. Actually, I was there yesterday, and
Where do you go?
True Fades Barbershop.
I was gonna say I got a guy. It's on 71st Ave
in Thomas.
in Indian School. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting because every person in there, every male in there, had the same consensus. They felt like both sides were 100% wrong.
Yeah.
They felt like, literally, they were like, hey, and this is a black barbershop.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? They were like, nah, he was doing too much.
Yeah.
And they also said, but do you have to shoot to
But
kill every
to
time?
get to that point,
You have
yeah.
to shoot to kill every time. Can it be a
7
leg
times.
shot? You know what I mean? Like, can it be something else?
You don't need 7 bullets in the
Why does it
back.
have to be
you know?
7 bullets point blank in the back?
Well, that's training.
Again,
They actually
it goes back.
Shoot to kill?
neutralize the
That's what I'm
target
saying.
until target's down.
Yeah.
And done.
Well, that goes back to the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it goes back to, the training. It's going to come back to that every time. I don't know. That's the part I think for people, it's tough to swallow when you watch that. You watch someone, you're like, whoa.
Well,
Yeah.
Josh, I mean, again, I'll bring it back to you because, I mean, you're the fellow who's going to be able to make change. Me and Chris are deep thinkers, but we're just sitting here. You're the guy who might be in Congress, very well could be. What things are you going to do for police reform? Like, how are you going to?
Like we talked last week, the training's number one for me. I mean, after hearing it, looking into everything.
Is that, I mean, when you say training, are we talking about added financial resources or
I believe so. I think defunding the police is the worst thing we could possibly do. I think I'm not saying maybe there you'd have to look, every department would be different, but when I look at the training and the things that are happening on a regular basis, that even some of the cops that I talk to at the gym, they're like they know people that they're not gonna be able to defend themselves. You know what I mean? And a lot of it is training, but the hiring process as well, which we discussed last week too, hiring the right people, and a lot
do you
of
feel like cops should be paid more? I mean, is that
I believe that's part of a problem too. If somebody wants a nice career, you want to be paid decently. You don't want to get paid $40,000 a year to get shot at and people attacking you. So I completely understand that. And I feel the pay increase. I feel these people are hired if you're, like we were talking about, if you're too smart, if you're too much of a free thinker. And I've heard this from cops telling me this, so I'm not making it up, that they won't hire people. They won't hire. They want people to take orders. They don't want people to freely think. And I've seen it, and the cops have told me the same thing over and over and over again during the hiring process. Now, every department's not the same. Every department's not the same. But I feel the money's there for them to be sufficient in what's there currently. It's just what they're teaching, like you were talking about. Yeah. You can't walk in and have a giant wall that says, what was it, violence rules the day. That's not the right message to send these kids that are coming in there, or not even kids, but sometimes men later on coming in there and teaching them the proper way. And then do 2 hours of fighting straight, like you were telling me. The training.
2 hours of shooting.
Yeah.
Off to lunch.
I mean,
an hour of class.
It's important, and all that stuff's important. But you got to teach them. Maybe focus on more non-lethal ways to apprehend people as well, is a huge thing. And no-knock warrants. There's certain legislation we can do that can eliminate that type of confrontation that would eliminate what happened to Breonna Taylor in that situation. I'm not saying, listen, I know he was a drug dealer. I know she was in a trap. I know she was dealing drugs with him. They've already proven all this. Doesn't mean she should have got shot, right? Because if you walk in plain clothes into my house, you're probably getting shot too.
Right.
Well, again, you brought up Rand Paul. That's the essence of his legislation. Is
Yes,
getting rid
exactly.
of
And his dad was talking about it for 30
and that's
years
a Republican
prior.
doing that. That's a I mean, he's more of a libertarian, but that's a Republican.
Yeah,
that's
he's a true
putting that-
constitutionalist, a true conservative.
That was my horse in the race in 2016, by
Hey,
the way. But,
I voted for Ron Paul. I wrote his name in. And now Rand, I like Rand because he sticks to his guns and he sticks to like what he
Rand's
is.
a bit sensitive. He's not like Ron. Ron's hardcore, but Rand's a bit sensitive.
Because
He gets feathers ruffled.
Ron got hardened as he got older. He's kind of got that old man in him. You don't change from anything. But they have, I like Rand though because he sometimes I get irritated with him because he's so constitutional that he'll go completely against something, and I'm like, this is the best thing for the country right now, but it's not technically constitutional. He'll go against it, and I totally respect that because I know where he stands. I don't like wishy-washy people. So you either stand for something or you don't, and that's why I respect him, and I've always respected him.
Yeah.
If he was president, we would be okay.
By far my favorite
You know?
congressman.
Yeah.
By far
Yeah.
my favorite congressman. So.
I kind of side with Jim Jordan too. He's a fighter.
He's all right.
You know, he's a fighter, ex-wrestler. You know, he likes to get in there and scrap it out.
Alpha male type.
Yeah.
So now I didn't get a chance on Saturday night to go down to the rally. I went to the first Save the Kids rally,
Yeah.
and I didn't get to go to this one on Saturday night. You were at the first one with me, and you got a mention from, is his name Adele?
Adele, yeah.
Adele, yeah. He's a pretty cool guy. I
Yeah.
met him. And he put on the second one, I'm guessing, right? And,
Yeah.
But this time he gave you the opportunity to speak
Yeah.
at this thing. So I know there was a ton of people at the first one I went to. Fill us in on this on Saturday night, man. I wasn't
Yeah,
there.
it was
How'd
about
go?
equivalent crowd roughly. Once it cools off here, I think he's going to do another one in October. We'll probably have a little better crowd because the weather will be a little cooler. But you know, he went. We wanted to. I talked to them weeks leading into that first one, you know, and got in touch with him, and we wanted to keep it very politically neutral because we didn't want people thinking that this is a. We know where it stands, you know, when it comes to this stuff. But we wanted to be truly about the kids and fixing the problem at hand, and not anything else. This should be a bipartisan issue. This should be an issue that I don't care what side you're on. I don't care what color you are. You should be in support of this and getting rid of child sex trafficking. So when the second one came around, I met with Travis Haley, who him and Adele, and we were talking about what needed to be done. And then he said he brought Craig Sawyer in and Yako Bowens, and who's been doing stuff all over the country for a long time, and in regards to specifically child sex trafficking. And he even goes around the FBI and teaches how to identify these people within 30 seconds to identify if somebody's being trafficked or not. So he does a lot of tremendous work around the country. But he wanted me to come and speak from a legislative side, you know, and because these guys are telling the war stories of stuff they've been doing. And then, you know, here I come. I need to, what I feel can be done from a legislative side that's not being done is, it really blows my mind that we have legislation in Arizona sitting on a table right now. And I laid the bills out, you know, for people. And the fact that they don't even get heard is pretty disturbing. It's like, why is this not being heard?
Yeah.
Give me an
You know,
example. Give us an
For example, the main thing for me is due process in the courts. So, and what that is, they took due process out of these, I call them CPS courts, where they pull kids out of the home, right? For some good, sometimes there's a legitimate reason, and sometimes there's not. In 2005, they had due process up to that point. And at that point, 13% of kids were actually removed. Okay, so they might have pulled kids out, but only 13% stayed out of the home. The other ones that the judge looked at it said, or the jury looked at it and said, this is frivolous. Send the kids back to their parents. You know, so they cut the juries out because they said, you know, they make excuses. It takes too long. Well, they found a way to make money. It's what happened. Mm-hmm. So they make about $5,000 to $8,000 per kid per month that they pull out and place them into foster care. Mm-hmm. It's $1 billion industry in Arizona. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows what's going on. People are really woke right now to what's going on with that. And I think the time off during the pandemic here gave people more time to dig into this kind of stuff as well. But my point is, there is legislation to bring due process back into the courts and cut the conveyor belt off of these kids being taken from homes. And why I focus on CPS so much is that 88% of kids saved from sex trafficking go through our foster care services, up to 88%. So that's a pretty significant number, not 8, but 88%. Mm-hmm. So there's obviously a major problem there going on, and these kids are being targeted and trafficked, and I could prove it all day long. You know,
Do you feel like the child sex trafficking issue is being hurt by the QAnon movement? Because if you have on the mainstream media, QAnon's been ridiculed by CNN and MSNBC and places like that, but it's highly focused. QAnon's highly focused on the sex trafficking, the global sex trafficking trade. Do you think that its connection with that conspiracy group or whatever you want to call it, do you think that's hurting the actual reality of child sex trafficking and what we're doing about it?
I think people would actually research it. I don't think it does at all.
Yeah.
I think if you listen to fake news CNN anytime, you're in trouble. I think they purposely call everything a conspiracy, no matter what. Listen, I know certain people who are involved, you know, I mean, I know they're involved, and it's just a matter of time before it comes out, you know. And the thing is that when you have, you know, people, there's a reason why it's not been fixed and solved. There's a reason why the southern border is open. We've had Democrat and Republican Congresses. We've had Democrat and Republican presidents. We've had Democrat and Republican Senates. Here in Arizona, we've had more, you know, we're primarily Republican here at the state level, but it's a little purple right now. But there's a reason why that southern border is never controlled. A lot of the trafficking does go through the southern borders, whether it's drugs, guns, or humans, or
Well,
kids.
at the first group that we had people talking.
Yeah.
That's probably where their child was taken,
Yeah.
and they have never seen him since. You know?
Yeah, the cartels,
Straight to the
you know,
southern
will
border.
snatch up these kids at these foster homes, you know, and basically just sell them off to the highest bidder, you know, and they easily go back and forth across our border because it's not controlled, and that's one of my main reasons why I feel we should control the border. The drug, not even the drugs, the guns, just the kids, man. You know what I mean? We need to control the border the best we can, and that wall is just a portion of the entire comprehensive plan we need, you know, which has been openly discussed. Trump's like, we got the wall, you know. Yes, it helps, but what he always talks about is the stuff that's on the wall, you know, the sensors, the cameras, all the other technology, the ground penetrating radar, so you can look for tunnels. All that stuff is on the wall, so it's not just the wall, although it does provide a nice barrier. It makes things more difficult, right? But it's the other things. It's all of it together that works. It's not just any one thing. It's all of it, and that's why I support the wall. And so did all the Democrats twice before. They all voted for a fence, quote, you know, a wall. Nancy Pelosi and Schumer in particular voted for it twice until Trump went in. All of a sudden, they don't want the wall now. You know, it comes back to that polarization and that mindset, that TDS that's settled in now. That they just don't want to. If Trump wouldn't, if he said the opposite, he should purposely just say the opposite, you know, and then he would get what he wants out of it. You know what I mean? And I mean, it's to that point. It's how ridiculous this all is. It's to that point that that's something he could do. Like, we don't need a wall. We should just leave the border open. We want the wall now. You know, I mean, it's literally like that right now.
Well, Chris, I mean, you always seem to bring the human side into everything. Like, where are you coming at from this child sex trafficking thing? Like, you always seem to bring a different facet to it.
To answer your question, when you're saying the QAnon, does it hurt or help? You know, I think it's both. I think on the back end, it hurts. But on the front end, they bring awareness too. Because
it did launch it.
Yeah, people weren't
It
even
did launch
talking
it.
about it.
It did.
And we have 800,000 children a year that go missing in the United
You
States.
saw the signs at the thing
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
People are woke to like what's happening.
It did
not,
launch it.
Not whether it's
Yeah.
100% true or not,
Yeah.
but they are paying attention.
They are paying attention, even if they go overboard. It's
Yeah.
the fact that people this was never talked about
Ever.
You know, ever. Even what 2 days ago in Atlanta, they found 39
Yeah, I
children.
saw that, yeah.
and it was a blip on
I saw that.
on the screen.
They got 9 in Mesa. They snatched
should
9
be-
people in
that
Mesa.
should be
Major
front and center.
time
That should-
stuff.
Like everything else should be like, okay, there was this, but there was this. You know what I mean? We found 39 kids that were missing.
Yeah.
39. You know what I mean? Like that's not a small number. That's 39 children. Those are families that are missing.
Can you imagine?
Children. No.
Can you imagine
no.
catching? Like, can you imagine like finding those kids and getting them out of there, like knowing what they've been through? I mean, it would be that'd be hard.
Well, all of our media,
Yeah.
regardless of who they side with, they said, by the way, 39 children were found, and on to, you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
went on to something else. You know what I mean? And that's
And we had more positive tests on COVID at University of Florida.
right.
It's like, who
And
cares?
Right.
The kids, they've got 39
They
kids
just
are
found
found.
39 kids. That should take an hour to try to, to go
Yeah.
through that. That should be the whole new segment.
Yeah.
And it's so it to answer your question, at least they brought awareness to.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't even being talked about. Now social media, it's on fire with it. You know, people are looking for it everywhere, which is good because it's the people looking for it. But on the back end, you're right. These other, because there's QAnon, there's other subgroups.
Yeah.
You know, but the media says, oh, so QAnon is saying this is happening. You know what I mean? There's lizard people eating kids. You know what I mean? They're doing that.
They make ridiculous.
Yeah, they do
statements.
that with it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's where it. But I don't.
But it's
even-
2020.
I
So
don't even-
is that happening?
I don't even know if it hurts.
I'm kidding, people.
because I think that it's the same thing you guys have been saying with everything else, whether it's COVID, whether it's Trump, Biden, whether it's whatever. People draw their lines. whether it's Rittenhouse, Blake, they
Yeah.
draw their lines and they're on that line. Yeah. One of the toughest things for people to admit is, you know what, I was wrong. I think I'm going to do something different. And that's just in anything in life. People struggle with that for whatever reason. People struggle with saying, I was wrong. Yeah. You know, you'll see that just in your day-to-day life, just, you know, dealing with your spouse or whomever. Mm-hmm. I was wrong, baby, on that one. You know, it's tough to do. You know, and so when it's something as big as that,
kind of like, I was wrong.
Yeah, right.
Kind of look away as you're doing it.
So when it's something as big as that, then it's like the people who aren't the people. When it comes to Trump and Biden, people have made up their mind. Mm-hmm. You have the people who haven't made up their mind. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that are going to decide the race. Yeah. The people who have not made their mind up yet. The people that are kind of like.
If you listen to Biden speak once, you should make your mind up.
When does he speak?
That's what I mean. That on top of it,
than the Cardi B. Yeah. But when does he speak? You know.
What's that? WAP.
Yeah, right. So it's like
you know what the thing you talked about when you brought up the sex trafficking and what can be done. And when I asked the crowd, the whole crowd, I said, how many of you out here have called your state senators and state house representatives and demanded that these bills get passed? And like 3 people raised their hand. All those people there, 3 people. Well, and one of them was Marty Lynch. Martin Lynch did it. He's the one that wrote the bill, so he doesn't even count.
Let me say something first before you, because I think you could probably add something to this. So I teach history and U.S. history, all kind of history, but U.S. history. And a significant part of U.S. history is devoted to the issue of slavery. I mean, there's tons of issues before the Civil War that all involved slavery. And when I teach it to the kids, I try and teach slavery in a way that they have to think about it objectively. So they have to put themselves in the shoes of people of that time. So slavery of that time to those people was commonplace. It wasn't out of the ordinary. It wasn't repugnant. When you think about it today, you think about those people back then, you're like, how could they stand for this? It was the most ridiculous thing in the world. The social outlook then is slavery. It's obviously it's wrong, but you're thinking about it in a context of today. Yeah. You're not thinking about it in a context of back then. So then when I think about the child sex trafficking thing, we all know it's happening. We all know what's going on. Chris said 800,000 kids go missing a year. We all know this now. Yeah. But is it in our minds now? Is this commonplace? Do we accept it as common? And 200 years from now, will somebody look back at our generation and say, how did those idiots allow 800,000 kids to get stolen every year in sex traffic? What was wrong with those people? They were all terrible people. The way that we think about those people back in the early parts of U.S. history. And to get slavery, to get rid of slavery, it ultimately cost the lives of a half a million people.
Yeah.
What is it going to cost, Josh, to take care of this program or this problem? And what are you prepared to do for it as a potential congressman?
You know what? It makes it hard because here's why. And I won't say the person's name because I probably said it before. But there's a person who's head of a association or institute against human child trafficking. Okay? I won't even say what state it's in. It's on the West Coast, that's all I'll say. Now, this person knew what Epstein was doing. They knew what was going on down in that island. She admitted it. I gave it away. She admitted it on video saying this. And she's the head of the organization. So that tells you where we're at right now. When you have the head of an organization that is supposed to help save kids from trafficking and sex trafficking and all that stuff, and she knows about what's going on down there, and doesn't say anything. She said she was scared, right? And rightfully so, probably. You know what I mean? Who knows? I mean, these are very wealthy, powerful people that pay for people to disappear. You know, and it's kind of like that. And I'm sure that's probably why she didn't say anything. But when you have that kind of issue, what we can do is attack it legislatively, and we have to do it at the state level, at least initially, because if we can set an example here in Arizona, that's what we wanted to do, is set an example here for everybody else to follow. Just put due process back in the courts. If somebody's going to take your kid, that's the most prized possession any of us have. You know what I mean? Is our kids. And if you're going to take my kid, you can't even. And here's another thing with the whole in that situation with kids being taken is, if a parent is really that terrible, right, and they're doing something so bad to a kid, you have to remove them from the home. Wouldn't they be arrested criminally? These parents are not arrested. Their kids are just taken. So that there's a lot of there's a lot of things we can argue. But again, what fixes that? What fixes almost everything in our Constitution is due process. The phrase that is probably used the most throughout the Constitution is due process. It's used multiple times throughout, and that fixes literally almost every problem that we have when it comes to certain things is being heard by a jury of our peers, which goes all the way back to Magna Carta. You know, I mean, you're a history buff. I mean, 1215, jury of our peers, that's where that came from. So this concept has been around for a long time. And for some reason, the CPS courts don't have due process. They took it away. Now, I'm not saying every state's like that because it very well could be. I'm just talking in reference to Arizona. We have 2.5 times more kids taking CPS here than anywhere else in the country. So I find it hard to believe we have that many more bad parents here in Arizona than the rest of the country. You know, so there's something going on. There's something happening, and there's a monetary incentivization from the top down. I've seen it. That's part of the problem. Anytime you involve money and a way to make money off a program, and this is a Title 42 program. It's never been enacted by Congress. I call it a fake law because they're using this Title 42. If you actually know your rights, they can't come take your kid without a warrant. So Kelly Townsend, Representative Townsend, if you guys are familiar with her, she's been pretty outspoken about this subject as well. So Kelly said, okay, we're going to make you have a warrant to come do this. Well, what did CPS do? Well, they just went and got a judge to be their rubber stamp warrant guy 24/7, and they just, boom, stamp it, go get a warrant, take the kid. Still, based on a fake unconstitutional law that's never been enacted by Congress. It's a non-positive law. So if you look up Title 42, it's not. If you look in the Social Security Act, and I learned this from my good friend David Jose, if you look in the Social Security Act, it clearly says that you cannot take a child out of the home without either parent agreeing with it. Either, just one. It can take just one. It could be the mom or the dad. You're not taking my kid out of this house. They cannot remove your kid from that home unless there's something criminal happening, which they're completely going against what's already been enacted. That law is supreme to anything that has to do with Title 42. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on that needs to stop. And one of the things, again, the number one thing is due process back in the court, all courts for that matter. So if there's these administrators, you have a judge who has absolute power. What's it do? It breeds absolute corruption, right? And that's what's happened. And unfortunately, since 2005 here in Arizona, you know how many kids are ripped out of homes every month in Arizona? 700 to 1,000 kids are removed from their homes in Arizona and put into foster care services. That's a ton.
I can speak from the inside of that. I directed a level 2 behavioral health company for 6 years.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and so, man, that's so big. It's okay. What happens with that is when you're saying due process, lack of due process, is they err on the side of caution, right? They err on the side of, if there's smoke, let's just remove them until we figure it out.
It's a red flag, right?
However, on this side of it, when you're operating the actual group home, because there's level 2, level 3, level 1. There's just group home that's non-therapeutic. There's so many.
There's a lot of different ones.
So many, then there's foster
different types.
care.
Yeah.
There's so many avenues, right? So what happens is that there is an economic side to this. That's it pays well. It pays really well. So when you have a child that goes into these facilities and they're getting paid between $5,000 to $8,000 a month per child
Minimum.
I can tell you
upwards of 10 plus.
I can tell you exactly what it is, depending on the facility, depending on what level it is. So what happens is you have some of these level 1 facilities, right? Those are lockdown facilities. Those are where the child comes, stays there, never leaves. The parent can come visit. Well, they build compounds. Well, they'll house 100 kids. These are.
See, this is all new to me, so you gotta explain all this.
That's like a jail, basically, at that point.
ADJC something different.
Yeah. The juvenile detention centers. Yeah.
That's those places. Adobe Mountain. Those places are even different.
Yeah.
From these places. So when you have the level 1 facilities, those places are just commercial buildings, so to speak, and they have an entire program. The kids eat there, sleep there, they do everything there. They go to school there. Okay, that's level 1. They'll have maybe 100 kids, 200 kids, and then they'll have what's called bed holds. They'll have contracts with bed holds with CPS that say, we have 200 beds, 100 of them are yours, but you better make sure these 100 are filled at all times. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
This is how this works, right? So then when you go to level 2, those are step downs. That's when they're in an actual house. Okay, well, you'll still have 10 kids to a house. 2 staff. They eat there, they sleep there, but they go to school in a public school system. Again, it's a little less money, but you do a little less for them, so to speak, in a way, kind of. So there's a big, and then you have non-therapeutic homes, which they don't provide any therapy. They just house them. Literally, a lot of these kids don't even go to school. That's when it gets to the point where you're just like, you're not gonna do anything, but we'll just pay to keep you there. They make a little less, even. And I'm telling you, from the inside of that, because it's a business.
You get a lot of runaways probably at that level.
No,
I would imagine.
No, you get a lot of kids that they've already tried the therapeutic aspect, and they say, don't even give them therapy. Just let them age out.
Yeah,
they go there and age out.
Get out of here.
Yeah, when they age out, then you just go about your business. So it's comprehensive, man.
Yeah.
Like being on the inside of that, and my ex, she still operates those. I know a lot about that, what you're talking about, and a lot of it comes down to contracting.
Yeah,
they have these contracts with these different facilities that say, hey, I have a bed hold of 100. You better keep 100 kids in these beds.
They all feed one another.
Yeah, you better keep 100 kids in these beds. And then you have certain power brokers. It's like anything else. It gets political. You have certain power brokers within the system who have so many facilities that they sit on the board of CPS.
Yeah.
And so it ensures that they get this many children.
There's politicians I know of that own homes.
Yeah, I know politicians
that
own homes.
I know. I'm not going to say names, but I know who they are. We know who they are.
Yeah,
but the incentivization to fix the problem of what I mean, having due process. There's no incentivized. You're not going to get politicians to vote against. It's like term limits, like we always believe in. It's hard to get these people to actually vote to have term limits against themselves.
Yeah.
They were giving each other raises back during COVID, for crying out loud, when people were shutting down, the entire economy.
For a novice here, could you guys explain what Title 42 is? Can you give me the details of that so I can be caught up here?
Title 42, like I said, it's a non-positive law that's never been enacted by Congress. Means Congress has never passed it as a law. That's what they use, and it's in the Social Security Act. Okay, so that's what they use to. That's their reasoning behind taking kids. That's what they use. Now, when people actually know their rights, and like I said, my friend David Jose is an expert on this from the CPS. He's had 60 kids returned back to the parents in the last 2 years, which is unheard of. I mean, you're lucky if you get 2 back, let alone that many. But he clearly shows constitutionally and lawfully why these kids are removed for frivolous reasons. And Martin Lynch has shown me actual court documents saying a kid was removed because there's Cheerios on the floor and the house is dirty because there's Cheerios on the floor. Yeah, they removed kids from the home. It's insane, some of the stuff you see.
So it just gives overly broad powers.
Yes,
kind of.
Yes, okay. Yes, exactly, and it can, how to counter it without writing legislation particular to that is just putting due process back into courts. Because any logical person, if we were sitting as a jury of peers sitting there listening to a story and we found out they were taken because of Cheerios, I'd be like, next, give them their damn kids back. Yeah. Why are you wasting my time here? I got to go to work, But this literally happens all the time. Martin has shown me, he just had 2 more kids return recently. He's shown me the reasons why he has, and I'll forward it to you guys, you can read it later. But he just sent me one yesterday. A daughter was taken. She actually wrote a letter saying how much, she wants to go back to her parents. And she has a good relationship with them, but they had we call them Karens now. Yeah. Call and say, oh, we heard this. Yeah. Now, it's a red flag.
And their identity is protected.
Yes, Title 42 is a red flag law in a way. You know what I mean? Because I can just go, well, I saw so and so smack his kid in the back of the head, and I think you need to go check it out. And then they go in and they look, they're looking for things. You know what I mean? And it's become a huge problem. And I call it the red flag law, like with guns, the same way. You know what I mean? That they're trying to push. It's that same concept.
Now, what Chris just said blows my mind because I think this issue right here, what you guys are talking about, is a lot more important to your local voters.
Yeah.
Than any national issue, anything Trump says.
Maryville in my district gets hammered with CPS cases. And some of them are legitimate. Some are legitimate.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
but there's a lot that are
But like
frivolous.
to local voters, like the people who are going to be voting for you, like
Yeah.
this seems to be much more of a personal issue, something that could directly impact them than Trump saying this or Trump saying that or a tweet that means nothing in the larger span of things. Like what Chris just said it's real stuff.
There's a letter written by a lady who I know, and I met her over the last year and a half. She wrote a letter to Ruben Gallego asking him for help on a case. And he wrote back, I'm very aware of CPS and issues and some of the corruption. Literally used that word. But basically, there's nothing I can do about it. He did absolutely nothing. He didn't even make a phone call to find out what's going on or anything. These guys know, not him in particular, but these politicians know what's going on, and they're not doing anything about it.
Well, it comes down to funding with that, too. I can tell you now, this is devil's advocate on the CPS, just as far as the worker side.
Yeah.
One worker will have like 40 cases. Literally.
They're overrun, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, it becomes like you're just
Stack of folders.
Yeah, it's
on
like,
your desk.
okay, this child looks good. Let me put him in this group home. This one, and then there's also a socioeconomic side. The reason it hammers your
Maryville,
area is because they don't have attorneys to fight it.
Uh-huh.
And then, honestly, when a CPS worker walks into a home, one of the first things they do is like anything else, first impression. They walk in and they say, "Nice home, can't be that bad." They're humans because they know they have another 10 homes to visit after this one. Or they just came from 10 homes that weren't nice. And they're like, oh, this can't. I've seen it. I've seen this. I've seen this in action where they'll walk into a home where a child will say, there's definitely been something here.
Yeah.
And they're like, but it's a nice home. His parents are good parent. They're good people.
They seem like nice
people. He goes to a good school. They don't want to deal with it because they have 39 others. You know what I mean? So that's a big thing.
Yeah,
It
really is.
It's so big that unless you're on the inside and and just really see it, it's hard to even understand.
See, I've heard exactly that, and I completely understand that. But again, that's where due process can save the day. Because
this might be a good topic for our next podcast with as far as due process. But what you said, as far as a lot of the people in Josh's district, they don't have access to the legal resources that they need to fight something like what you're saying. But I'm sure this could go for all kinds of issues that they may face in the legal system. Is they just don't have the legal resources to stand up to the legal system.
No, you're exactly right. People get targeted I think people sometimes get targeted for those reasons from the socioeconomic standpoint. It's an easy target if you're trying to make money, right? If that is a potential, because these people that take a kid out of a home, they get $500 every time. It's all trickled down. This money's trickled all the way down to the bottom. So Martin Lynch wrote another bill that never got heard, and it's another one I think is a tremendous idea. Is that the legal system? So who determines whether somebody gets disbarred? The bar, right? The bar is a private PMA.
Yeah.
They're a private membership association. So what happens when you let somebody police their own?
Yeah, right.
Bad thing. Then they say, okay, this guy might know the law, he might know what to do, but they only push so hard before they're I can't really do anything. Hands are tied because they don't want to get disbarred, and it happens. We have cases of it. So another thing is he had a bill put in. If you're going to get disbarred, a jury of your peers will decide if you get disbarred or not the Bar Association, which I thought was just a brilliant idea. Just common sense, brilliant idea.
And this is legislation that you could get on board with.
Marty,
for sure.
Marty has it written already. It's been sitting in Arizona for 2 years now. Now remember, a lot of these people that are on the AZ Ledge are attorneys. So do you think it's kind of like voting against term limits, or for term limits? You're voting against yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot in a way. And the same thing could be applied to medical doctors. Dr. Urso told me that he was threatened about prescribing hydroxychloroquine, that he was threatened by it. He didn't care because he's been in the profession for 30 years and he's well off. He doesn't need the money. He can retire right now. It's fine. But he said the younger guys that were newer to medicine, trying to build their business, were threatened as well. Yeah. And they were like, I'm not going to prescribe. I don't want my license taken away. But again, we can apply that same process of due process. If you're going to have somebody's license taken away, as a doctor, it should happen by a jury of your peers and not by the AMA or the medical association, probably a state level, deciding whether that happens or not. So again, due process it was in the Constitution multiple times for a reason.
Yeah.
And is it more maybe, I know it's not maybe as timely as what people want. It takes more time, maybe a little more effort.
But getting it right sometimes takes
but
time.
if you're going to take somebody's kids, if you're going to disbar somebody or pull their license with their body of work their entire life, then I think it's something that is very important. It should be heard to a jury of their peers. That's just my opinion, And a lot of my friends out there and stuff that are even my Democrat friend Leibowitz agrees with me on this, and to have somebody who is a huge Bernie guy, you know what I mean, like to the far left, and I got friends on the far right. I got libertarians, independent, conservative friends. I haven't met one person yet that says, that's a stupid idea. We shouldn't do that. Everybody kind of agrees, like, yeah, I think that's a common sense thing to do. We can apply it to so many different things that it's not being done. And just keep in mind, there's a reason why it's not being done. There's a reason why. And we could spend 2 hours talking about that. Yeah. And it's not conspiracy. It's real. It's true. Yeah. And it's always about money. Follow the money, and you can usually lead you to where you need to go. Yeah. But we do have legislation. It's a matter of letting the people know you need to call your legislators and demand that you want change. Otherwise it's not going to happen. Yeah. We can rah-rah all day and throw these marches and everything else. Nothing's going to happen until you force your legislators to do something or tell them, we're voting your butt out. We're getting you out of here. You're not doing the job. We're getting you out of here. And that's what it comes down to. Unfortunately, it's that cut and dry, really.
So do we know when Adele's next event is, or
not yet? I talked to him last night, and Travis, we're going to meet probably within the next week or so in October. I'm thinking mid-October. He's talking because we really want people to understand that people are. I was the only quote politician there.
Well, I remember the first rally he had only two politicians showed up, only two, and so that's impressive.
It's this is he's even put ads out for it and everything. These people know that there's something going on down at the Capitol, and the fact that they just ignore it and dismiss it, really, it's kind of mind blowing to me that they wouldn't want to be involved in this movement to save kids, literally save kids, especially when you have people like Craig Sawyer, you have Travis Haley. You have people getting involved. I keep thinking of the football player, when I say that. They keep getting involved, but it's something that it's a huge thing to me just because anything for me with kids, I know you guys are the same way. Anything that deals with kids with me is just it just touches my heart enough that, we need to stand up and fight for what's right. And that's just all there is to it.
Well, the politicians ignore it because the media does. I mean, it's really what it boils down to.
Like Adele said last night, we need to be the news.
Yeah,
we need to be the news. Turn on your phones, turn on your lives, let people know what's going on, and it's really about awareness. And that's why I appreciate Adele, because it really is bringing more awareness to the situation in Phoenix. We're number one. We're a hub for this stuff out here. You know what I mean? We're a hub for it. So if we can nip in the bud out here, it's going to help the rest of the country as well.
So we're definitely going to get a couple more events before the election, right?
Yeah,
we're gonna have like what's going on with the election and with the events that we got planned. Like what's going on? Like you're almost to the end, Josh.
Yeah, I have a big fundraiser on 9/11. So bring your money in your pocketbooks.
Where?
It's going to be a university club. It's 3rd Street, McDowell, correct? 3rd Street, McDowell, and it's going to be from 7 to 9. If anybody wants to be involved or show up, DM me. Get on my website, barnettforaz.com. You can email me through there directly. We'll make sure we get right back to you and give you more details on it. But it's gonna be a fun night. It's gonna be good. And you're on
Facebook, IG, all
Facebook, that. Barnett for AZ, on Instagram and Twitter, and Josh Barnett for Congress on Facebook. Reach out on any of those platforms. The website might even be the easiest for most, barnettforaz.com. You can email me, and it'll go right in touch with me and then some of my campaign people that help me out to keep track of all the emails that come through, and we can get the details out. But we have that. We have another event we're setting up for the next day that we just got in touch with tonight. So we're setting it up. I'll have more information on that here very shortly, and we'll get it out all over the social media and everywhere so for people to know. And then when Adele gets this figured out, we'll get that out as well.
So that's 9/11 and 9/12.
9/11 and 9/12. Yeah, and we all know what 9/11 is. Yeah. And it's an important day in American history. With what happened that day, we all came together.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to push is come together, bring hope, and just positivity back to this country, togetherness, and we're America. We are. I mean, I get if you hear "God Bless America," if you don't get emotional, like if you a little bit emotional,
especially.
or the national anthem, if you don't get a little emotional about that, like feel proud of your country, it's just stuff like that I think that we need to bring people together. And now's the time to do it, and I feel we can. I really do. I feel we can. It's there's a lot of common ground between this that is being purposely or ignored in some way.
Well, can I close with this?
Sure.
I just, as Americans, I hope we remember this or become aware of this, that we're doing all this infighting and we have certain segments that are saying that the country is not good or pointing out the bad parts of the country. Just realize in Hong Kong right now, they're using the American flag as their symbol of freedom. They're waving the American flag and saying, this is our ideal. This is what they're using against the Chinese government.
Yeah.
They're waving them. It's like it's rebellion. That's the sign of rebellion there, is the sign of the American flag. Mm-hmm. So it's just remember that, man. Remember the blessings that we have here.
Definitely. Y'all good?
I'm good.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Next Sunday, we'll have another podcast out. And I told him he's going to be an every week part of what we're doing here, because he brings a lot of good conversation, and we have a lot of different backgrounds and ideas and ideologies that we all can come together with. So thank you guys. See you next week.
Thank you.